Hi everyone, here is Tatiana Bazzichelli, the director of the Disruption Network Club again. We are connected from the Kunstquartier Bethanien in Berlin, also on streaming. First of all, I want to remind the people that are following on streaming always that there is the possibility also to ask a question. So today we decide also to have a bit of a moment of a question and answer at the end. But I am very touched in this moment. Actually, it's a very important moment for us at the Disruption Network Club because I'm going to announce Bryant, that has been our first speaker in the history of the lab and also our first keynote. Brandon came to us in April 2015 when we had our first conference drone. Eyes from a distance, and it was a very important moment for us because was the first conference, was the first moment in which we invite a whistleblower here in our program, and also was a moment in which we all started to rethink war in a completely different way. And myself also, I have to say that this encounter really touched my life and touched also the way I started to think about war, I started to think about conflict and also about whistleblowing. And I know that Brandon is a person that inspired many other whistleblowers because he has been the first US drone program whistleblower among the all others that then follow. And so his action was very important for many of us. And we also know that this action often make people do really a strong act of courage, and then the person also goes through a lot. So I'm really thankful for Brandon to be here with us again after 7 years, and also to be still here speaking with us, because this is really important. Also, the strength of the person that decide to come back after all this time, be with us again, with our public, and still speak about these topics that we know also touch the life of the whistleblower so much. So really, Brandon, I want to thank you so much for the way you inspired us and also for being with us again. And I am leaving now to you the stage. I remind the people also that if they want to read more, also Brandon wrote on our book, and you can find this chapter that has the same title of our talk. I think that then Brandon, the stage is yours, and I will come back after a bit to have a moment of sharing with the audience. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I feel really honored to be here today because in reality, I pretty much shouldn't be. I'm the only whistleblower who has done what I've done to the limit that I've done, that has encountered the law and beat the law in my own hometown. And while I was invited to come speak with you, I wasn't really sure what I was going to say. And after listening to the previous panel, they gave you a lot of technical information and very accurate information as well. And I really think that you guys should spread that as far as possible. So I've decided that what I was going to tell you guys about is how to support people like me. People like me who are in a situation where we see that shit is fucked up, and there is nothing that we can do about it until it's done, and then we have to talk about it. It's trauma. And it happens to every one of us who are involved in this process, from the person who makes the screwdrivers and twists them in to the person who pulls the trigger. I kind of feel like I was born for this moment, and so I'd like to actually tell you a story to sum up the process that I went through to get to where I am today. And then I'm going to tell you about what has gone on in my life as a whistleblower and what I've had to face and what you guys need to be aware of so that you can support more people. I already have plenty of people that support me, who love me, even when I don't love myself. So, in honor of my great-grandfather, who was a minister, who told me that I would have to bear testament to something, and I'm going to bear testament of war to you today. But in honor of him, I'm going to tell you a story first. There once was a young man who came to an abbot of a monastery, and he said, "I am completely dissatisfied with life, and I have no longer a will to live. Is there a short path towards enlightenment for a man like me?" And the abbot asked, "Have you been good at anything?" And the young man said, "Well, my family was rich, so I never had to work. But I guess you could say that I was good at chess, because it was the only thing that I really practiced a lot." So the abbot thought for a moment, turned to his attendant and said, "Bring me a chessboard, this monk, and men." So his attendant comes back, and the abbot pulls a sword, and he says, "Dearest monk, you have given me your vow to obey my command, and here I will hold you to it. You will play a game of chess with this young man, and if you lose, I will take your life. And if this young man loses, then he surely deserves it. But you will be reborn in paradise, and he will not." And so the chess game began. And at the first of it, it became this young man's entire world. Every little move, every little bit consumed his entire being. And at first he had the rough of it. And then his opponent made a mistake, and he capitalized on it. Then his opponent made another mistake, and he capitalized on it, and it kept happening. And then he looked up in his opponent's face with glee of victory, and he saw a man's face who was worn with compassion and care and had no worry. And so he made a mistake on purpose. And he thought of his own pitiful life, his own worthless existence, how he never did anything right in his life. All he did was leech off of his family. He didn't have any responsibility. And he made another mistake, and another. Then the abbot overturns the board with his sword, and he says, "There are no winners here, and there are no losers. The only thing that is required for enlightenment is absolute and complete concentration. But also, in the midst of that concentration, you must have compassion. And you demonstrated that here today with your chess match. And if you approach your studies with that attitude, your enlightenment it will be assured." So he stayed, and it was. I kind of feel like that story relates to my life, and because I did nothing but be in the military and a job my whole adult life. And it wrecked me. I was a Christian. I believed what they told me. I believed what my country stood for. In fact, I still believe in it, but I don't believe my country stands for it. I believe in honor, truth, and justice, and I believe those are the only ways that you will succeed. But there's more to it. You always have to seek the truth. You can't let anyone tell you what it is. You can't let anyone tell you what it isn't. Because the truth can always be challenged. It can be turned upside down and inside out, and it will always be the truth. There's a saying that says that the lie is halfway across the world while the truth is still tying its shoelaces. And I experienced that as a whistleblower every single day. I have a man who is stalking me whose wife is a lawyer for Raytheon, and Raytheon last year got a $2.3 billion contract to build drones in the U.S. for the U.S. government. This man sent a fake video to the politicians of my town accusing me of wanting to kill them, and he fabricated this whole story, and the politicians in my own hometown called me a mass murderer, an alleged veteran, and they threw me in jail for 30 days for calling out the fraud, waste, and abuse of government resources. In my own hometown, where I was raised, where my mother has been a teacher for 30 years, where my grandpa taught high school, led Montana Hellgate High School to its first and only state championship. Legendary. In fact, the mayor with whom I yelled at testified not on my behalf, but on my family's behalf, even though he was the one that threw me in jail. I had another veteran who was a journalist who called me an alleged veteran. Didn't even look up anything. Didn't look up anything that I had done over the last 10 years. They just threw me in jail because I was uncomfortable for them. And you know what? The shit people in my town did nothing. There was a handful of people that did something. The rest ran away. The people who put me up on there to yell at the mayor, they ran away. They set me up, threw me under the bus as soon as shit got difficult. And I can tell you that telling the truth, there is nothing more difficult in your life than standing by that, because everyone will tell you what to do or think or what to feel, and you have to determine for yourself what that is. For 10 years, it's my 10-year anniversary of blowing the whistle. For 10 years, I've had to deal with this. For 10 years, I had people that I served with in the military call me names, lie to me, lie to my face, come talk to me, and then go on forums and say nasty, nasty shit. People I loved, people I fought with, people I told. I remember one of my friends who worked for the 17th Reconnaissance Squadron, which was the CIA squadron. He watched a Hellfire missile hit the side of a building and a man be close enough coming around a corner where it obliterated the dude, vaporized him. He cried to me. Same motherfucker spilled filth about me throughout the entire drone program, throughout the internet. Person I called a brother. Because you know what? When you have to tell the truth, you're going to have people betray you. Because the enemy is not interested in truth. They will do everything that they can, and you must not be like your enemy. In my chapter, I mentioned the art of war and the moral law. Sun Tzu says there are 5 things that are required to wage war: the moral law, heaven, earth, the sovereign, and the general. But if you do not have the moral law, you will always lose. Guaranteed. Because every single one of you here and every single one of the people that are watching knows what the moral truth is. Because you know what it's like to be lied to. You know what it's like to lie. And you know how bad that is. You know how bad it makes you feel. But you also have the measurement of what it's like to repent and do right. You are now the legion of the chosen, and you have been chosen to support whistleblowers and maybe be one yourself. I choose you. I choose you here now, because I'm sick of doing this as I've done it. I'm sick of people like Lisa and Sean having to lose their minds because they know, they've talked to the same people, and they're like, you should be out here with us. You should be doing this. And so many people just don't want to do it. I had a really bad last couple weeks. And if it wasn't for Tatiana and Lisa Ling, I don't know if I would have been here. Because they're 2 of the people that have supported me through this, and I support them back. I wish I could make this funny, because you know what? I just flew in from Missoula, Montana, and my arms are tired. Literally just got off the plane right before coming up on stage. But it's not funny. I wish it could be. I wish I wasn't dealing with the fact that the people that I love and care for most in my life, that I grew up, the ones that taught me about justice, the Christians, oh my goodness, the Christians themselves are the worst of the whole bunch because they're the ones that taught me, thou shalt not murder, yet they are the ones that are pulling the trigger and murdering the most. For shame. For shame. I don't give a shit about any other religion. I'm not religious, but I do care about the Christians because my family's Christian, my mother's Christian, and I would like them to be exactly what they tell me that they are. My mother is. Woman's a saint. She deals with me every day. She obviously has to be a saint. There's someone out there right now who's sitting in that drone seat or sitting in a Humvee, and they're thinking to themselves, what the hell did I get myself into? They have a sergeant that's yelling at them that has no idea how to do their job. And you know what? That's typical. You know, you talked about the kill cloud and all these things, this compartmentalized information. No one knows anything that's going on. They just yell at you and hopefully that you know enough to get it done. No one knows. Everyone's making shit up. In September, when the New York Times article came out, and I read that they have officially found out that over 67% of the deaths in drone strikes have been civilians. And I was thinking about the 6,000 plus hours that I witnessed, all the people that I saw. When I first blew the whistle, the Air Force said, all those numbers that are on Brandon Bryant's certificate, those aren't his. For fuck's sake, they're not. They're all of ours. They're every single one of ours. I bore witness to them. I bring it to you. That is our responsibility. And if 67% of those people that these are just the recorded numbers. They're not even all of the numbers. If 67% of those people are possibly civilians, we're damned souls. Show me any U.S. politician that is on the right track on this war stuff to get it stopped, and I will show you someone who's just out there to push buttons. Because when Bernie Sanders had the chance to talk about the drone strikes, he excused them. Where's AOC and her group? Where are the Democrats? I actually went to the Democrats. The politicians in my town are the Democrats. And they have this Democratic playbook. It's not about truth. It's about how they can frame the narrative so that they can take advantage long enough that they can make a bunch of money. Because that's all it is. It's greed. Jeff Bezos shouldn't exist. We shouldn't have a billionaire who is trying to go to space while there are people that are starving on our planet. We shouldn't have politicians that are arguing over stocks, that are trading stocks to go to war. Any single person that says that we should go to war and vote that we go to war, if it's a failed conflict, they should be held accountable to it. Every single one of these politicians that voted, because we weren't even in war. We lost it. We lost the Afghanistan conflict. Are we going to salute like the British now? Because we lost a war? Because this is why they salute that to us. This is our salute. This is their salute. Are we going to do that now? Because we lost. I had joint special operators come to me after we pulled out of Afghanistan, and they were like, I finally get what you were saying. I finally get it. I didn't want to because I thought that we were fighting a good fight, but I finally get it. Then the Ukraine conflict happened. These guys were talking about coming public. The Ukraine conflict happened, and then all of a sudden they're like, I got to go fight in this war because this is a bad guy and this is all that I know. And I don't know if you heard, but a German Foreign Legion troop got bombed by the Russians and 200 of them killed, and my friends might have been part of that. and they are just as much victims as anyone else. They have been shaped and molded to believe something that is untrue, believe that they are unworthy, believe that the only thing that they can do is fight, the only thing that they're worthy of is violence. And I'm telling you, you do violence against another person, you do violence against yourself. Because I've done it. And I can tell you that the moment that I pulled that trigger, Brandon Wayne Bryant died. And what you see before you today is just an empty vessel who is holding on to his memory because his dreams died. He will never be the person that he wanted to. I joined the military to get my education, and I still haven't gotten it because I've been dealing with this whistleblowing shit, and I've been dealing with the trauma. I paid my price. I don't want anyone else to pay it. Doesn't matter what skin color you have. Why is it that the Ukraine conflict is so devastating and so immoral when we've been doing that much or worse to people in the Middle East? This scarf, of which the people of my town accused me of being some sort of terrorist because I wear it, was given to me by an Egypt man as a gift. He called me Lawrence of Arabia. A stranger who I spent a day with, who just randomly was like, "Hey friend, let's go. I want you to meet my family. Come have some dinner with me." As I was walking into my hotel after I went somewhere, I don't even remember where I went, he decided to give me this because, you know what, I was worthy of it. He had no idea who I was. I'll tell you a little bit more about my trip to Egypt. I went into the desert at night after I was explicitly told to not to. And I went with two individuals, and they took me out to the desert to meditate to see the pyramids at nighttime. And as I was sitting to look at the pyramid, I looked over, and one of the guys had a knife in his hand, and I made eye contact with him. And then I turned back and I stared at the pyramids, and I sat there for 20 minutes thinking that I was going to be killed because I deserved it. And they had mercy on me. I don't know if it was a sign from God or anything, but I put myself in that situation on purpose, and I came out of it. I came out of it because they showed mercy on me, something that we somehow have forgotten. I've been on every single major news network in the world, and pretty much every single one of them have shaped the narrative to suit their own needs. And when I've talked to the people afterwards, it's usually the interns that are like, "Wow, that was really awesome." And it's usually the people that the newscasters and the producers and stuff that treat me like garbage afterwards. I remember when I was on Fox Business News, the crew took me to get wings and beer afterwards, and I sat there and I couldn't even touch my food. I almost met Kellyanne Conway. She walked by me in the hall, and the lady was like, "Hey, would you like to meet Brandon Bryant?" She's like, "Fuck him." Walked away. Do not trust the news. Do not trust the radio. Do not trust anyone unless they've proven it to you. Unless you can verify it with your own two eyes, always be skeptical. And even then, so I'm going to tell you the end of that story that I told you earlier. The young man who was no longer a young man was sitting on a mountainside, observing his favorite scene. And a warrior in pristine armor shows up and he said, "Dearest monk, teach me everything that you know about heaven and hell." And the young man, who was no longer a young man, looked at the monk and saw that his armor was pristine and he looked like he was very disciplined and very fit for his job. And he says, Teach you about heaven and hell? I doubt I could teach you to clean the rust from your sword, you useless twit. And the warrior is taken back. He's disciplined. He's fought his way to be here. He's been seeking answers, and this monk insulted him, and then goes back to observing his scene like he wasn't even there. And the warrior loses his temper, and he pulls his sword with fury. And he's about to strike the monk, and the monk turns with him with a serene face and calm disposition and says, "That is hell." And the warrior, realizing what he was about to do, kill a holy man out of hate, out of anger, out of pride, drops his sword and he falls to his knees and he begs the monk for forgiveness. And the monk looks at him with compassion and he says, "That is heaven." And if you take a seat next to me, we can enjoy reality for what it is. And the warrior picked up his sword, cleaned it up, sheathed it, and sat down and realized that the monk actually did teach him everything that he needed to know about heaven and hell. Thank you.
Thank you, Brandon. Now you left a strong responsibility on us that we have to keep the legacy. Yeah, as usual, you are always very touching when you speak, and I would not comment directly. I would immediately open up to the public. I feel also is important for us also to show our solidarity, because I think we really have to value what you did, and you just told us that was very hard, and this is usually the case for whistleblowers, but still I also feel to say that your act was very important, because as I say, you inspired a lot of people, and many others also will follow, and actually that already happened. So I think you really also have to feel that what you did was right, and there was a reason. And the reason is also that you have all these people in front of you that really are here also to give you a feedback and support you. So now I leave the voice to you to ask a question to Brandon.
Thank you.
Hello, everybody. I'm Katie. I'm a journalist, and I just want to thank you very much for your honesty and for this very powerful keynote. And this brings me actually to my question, talking about strength, talking about staying strong, whatever that means. Can you share with us, on a very personal level, what gives you strength in your daily life? What gives you strength to actually stand here today and to still fight in these years of fighting with this passion that I can see now from the distance? But I'm just interested in what keeps you going, what keeps you still alive, and what keeps you loving what you do still today. Thank you very much.
That's a good question, actually. I had this discussion with a friend. My World of Warcraft arena partner and I have these deep discussions while we play video games. And we talked about this actually right before I came up here. And I was kind of having my own moment. I had a black night of the soul a couple weeks ago, like right after the Ukraine conflict happened and my buddies left. My aunt was killed in a car accident. And things kind of really fell apart. And he reminded me of his own story. And he said, you know why the people like us keep fighting? It's because that inner fire, it burns. We still feel it. but we will never allow an innocent person to feel it. It's taking that pain and making it a strength. It's understanding what's in your own heart, because the only true knowledge that there is self-knowledge. And if you don't know yourself, then good luck, because you don't know anything. But if you know yourself, you know everything that you need to know to succeed. Miyamoto Musashi says that in the Book of the Five Rings. He says that if you fight one person or 10,000 people, it's the same thing. And I was a wrestler growing up, so I know what it's like to fight one person. I know what it's like to fight and win. And I actually honestly think that most people should have be in a competitive combat sport. You know, I pretty much think everyone should, because if you know how to defend yourself, then no one's going to fuck with you. And it is a sense of pride and accomplishment to know exactly what you're capable of. And if you can take that philosophy, you know, my grandpa would always tell me that every wrestling match that I would ever have, I must always think that I'm fighting the state champion. Even if he's beaten me 9 times out of 9 times, I'm wrestling him that 10th time. I have to believe in my heart that I'm going to win, even if I know I'm going to lose. This is the power of the mind, okay? You know, 100% out of 100% of times, I could drop this comb, and we all know that it's going to fall and hit the ground. But we can all imagine what happens if I dropped it and it flew away. You know? But you must always understand what is real first before you can utilize imagination in its proper context. You must know the boundaries. And only at that point, you'll be able to face any adversity and get through it. Anything. You know, that's it.
So there is more comment from the public. Yes, one there.
Hi, my name is Sonja Peter Anderl. I used to work for Spiegel magazine, Wired magazine, and other German outlets, and interviewed you also a couple of years ago. So you were the first whistleblower from the US drone program, but many others came behind you. And I would like to know if you, or if the people who followed you basically, like Snowden, learned from the others, you know, like from you or from the first examples. And maybe also what would you do differently in whistleblowing today with the, you know, what kind of lessons have you learned?
That's another good question. Well, I had a Twitter exchange with Ed, but we've never met. I blew the whistle 6 months before he did. I reached out to Chelsea Manning, and she never got back to me. But I did talk to Daniel Hale. It probably was like a year and a half before he released the drone papers. And he's told me that he was someone that worked with me, and he just wanted to know me. I had no idea what he was going to do or anything. We had a series of conversations. I didn't realize he was an officer either. I'm not really sure if like I was purposefully inspiring either, because I was really in a dark place for most of the beginning of it. Like even 2015, like I had a suicide plan. Like I was gonna seppuku myself on the White House front lawn. Like that was the goal, was like I was just gonna tell the truth, and I was just gonna go out there, and then I was gonna say fuck you to everyone and end it. And if I were to do anything differently, it would be to understand that I shouldn't have trusted some of the people that I trusted. My idea coming out was like, we should all know this. It should. Everyone will see that this is wrong. I didn't expect people to turn on me. I totally didn't, because many of the conversations that I've had with people, and many of the things that I've discussed publicly, I had in private in conversations with people while I was in the military. Like there was one officer who was a former cop and became a drone pilot as an officer, and he was like, my call sign was Church, and he was always like, Church, you're never going to make money as a philosopher. I don't make money as a philosopher, but I live well because I'm living as myself, you know? And I would think, like, I tried to start like a whistleblowing group community or people to support. The Project Red Hand was kind of that initial start of, and there were people that came into it that were obvious plants, that were obvious there to disrupt everything. And I was too naive. I was thinking that everyone's dealing with their shit like I'm dealing with mine, and everyone's on the right path to get towards there. But there are definitely people out there who feel like it's their only job in life is to be a bump in the road for someone else. And unfortunately, I've met too many of those people that come to me with, I think, good intentions, and I trust them, and they end up not.
Yeah, I wanted also to add that in our book we have a chapter from Barrett Brown, and I find it very important because he writes that one of the problems of whistleblowing is that often then, after blowing the whistleblower somehow lose the narrative that they contributed to create. And my experience also that I had in speaking with many whistleblowers is actually to experience this strange dichotomy, because somehow many whistleblowers lose the narrative in the sense that they have to suffer a lot of isolation and persecution after they do, and they blow the whistle, but then instead the people that are close to them in terms of feeling interest in what they did, or members of the civil society, then they feel very close to them. And they start also to really bring along this kind of thoughts that initially they learn from the whistleblowers. And we had the same experience also in November here, that we invited the reality winner to speak. And she was just coming out of prison, and also was really touching for us because we understood in that specific moment that she didn't even imagine that there was an audience in Berlin that was so warm and was feeling so much for her. And she was here directly online with the mother, and was a very important moment. So I'm just telling this to you because I also know you went through a lot, but in between also a lot of things change and a lot of people learn from you. And probably you don't have this experience that we all had also after speaking with you, because then you went back to your town, you have to go also with the consequence of what you did. But at least from my perspective, I can assure you that there was a very important consequence of what you did. Absolutely. And we all are sharing this. So I really want to thank you, and also I want to tell everybody to do an applause for you, because you really deserve it.
I appreciate it. I really do, thank you. Tatiana, you mentioned Reality Winner's mother. I'd also like to mention my mother, because she experienced the same isolation and stuff. So when I first started blowing the whistle, the FBI came to my mother's house and told her that if I didn't stop speaking, then ISIS would come kill her. And immediately she called me and told me, and I asked her if I should continue doing what I was doing, and she said, if you think that it's the right thing. But my family and her colleagues and her friends like left her there. They were not very supportive. So I mean, this is the weird thing about today's society, is like people don't want to hear the truth. They don't want to know the truth. And if you interfere with what's going on behind this, the Wizard of Oz behind the scene, then, well, good luck. You know, you're on your own. And, you know, there ain't nothing in this world like a mother. I'll tell you that much.
I just want to see if there is one last question, then we will pass to the screening of national bird. Yes, one over there. Ah, okay, so then we do one there and one online. It's okay.
I'd like to introduce you to the leftist tradition in Europe. I think you already are familiar with it. There's a small speech before the question. I don't know if anybody's told you this, but I'm an American that was against the war before you were even in the military. And I'm really glad what you did. And I just wish you could have killed your commanding officers at the same time. But we can't have what we want. So I want to thank you for what you actually did. And I want to say, you don't need to do any more. You should take care of yourself also. You deserve to have a good and happy life. And if nobody said that to you, man, you did something great. You really did something great. And we could all do something more, but you did something that most Americans didn't do. And I, as an American, am only proud of the Americans that are like you. Because everybody's talking about war right now, and they want to go and kill people, but usually they won't even do it themselves. And when people isolate you and leave you alone, it doesn't say anything about you, really. It says something about them, about how they want to be the executioner. And what I hear you reflecting is that actually you don't want to be the executioner, that that's actually a hellish outcome. So I want to honor the sacrifice that you made. And I guess my question to you is, when are you going to move to free Europe and give up on fucking America? It's a fucking failed state.
I'm looking into it right now because it's bad.
Stay in Europe. If you stay in Europe, we'll help you to become free, not just in body, but in mind. You can decompress from the hell that is the country that we're from the fucking propaganda and the fucking brainwashing that never ends, where you have to pledge fucking allegiance to a flag like a fucking Nazi state.
Yeah, I agree. Don't get me wrong, I agree. Like
Stay in Europe, Brendan. Be free. We'll help you.
I understand. I thank you for that, but I think in my heart I'm already free, and
Yes, but it's different if you can just stay here. Have like a love affair, fucking breathe free air, don't fucking feel guilty, just be free, man. You have earned it.
Thank you. I will definitely consider everything.
I still love America, don't get me wrong. It's the greatest country ever, obviously. But let's be clear, it's not just the greatest country in the world, it's the greatest country to ever be in the world. That's the propaganda, right? Yeah. But in reality, you could come to Europe. And you can live in Europe and be free.
Now let's pass it to the audience that is online. Thank you. Alice. You see how much support you have here in Berlin.
I appreciate it.
Maybe you should move here.
Yeah. I love Berlin. Berlin's like my European home.
So we have some questions from the online audience. I will pick one, then if we have time, we will read the others. You say that you felt like you were born for this, that you were chosen to fight this fight, and that we were too. You called us the Legion of the Chosen. If we are all chosen to fight, how can we fight against such systematic oppression and manipulation? Is there a way to solve violence without using more violence?
See, I'm not anti-violence, I'm anti-aggression. If you have to defend yourself, then you better be prepared to do it, because there are people out there that are ready to hurt you. Just don't go out try to hurt others. I honestly think that I'm not sure if I was chosen. I chose to do it. But I do choose you guys to continue and to do your own thing, if you so choose. I choose you if you choose it. But really the idea is like always seek the truth. That's it. You know, always question it. Don't give in to emotion. Anger leads to the dark side of the force, right? I think that's true. You know, we are not these fleshly creatures, we're luminous beings. Remember that. And you can literally face anything. You know, death happens to everyone. You know, the end happens to everyone. You don't have to rush it, and you don't have to don't push anyone else towards that. it will come to you in time. You know, be patient. That space between action and reaction, there's that little space that's there. You should be there all the time. Okay? All the time. And then you can fight whatever fight you want to fight.
I think with these words we can finish our sharing, and I think also to watch the film that will follow, National Bird, is a very important continuation to this discussion, because we will also see the action of other whistleblowers that are in that film, including also Lisa that spoke yesterday and Daniel Hale. So I would say, first of all, to thank Brandon for this very important and touching sharing, and then we will all meet here in 20 minutes. But thank you so much, Brandon, and I hope that you keep being strong, because you are.
Thank you very much. I greatly appreciate your support.